Welcome to Undressing Intimacy, where we cut through the bullshit
Greggy,
so we can get naked.
you can't say that.
Why not? How would you say it then?
Well, maybe more like, welcome to Undressing Intimacy, where we undress emotionally so we can undress physically.
That's exactly what I said. Not sure what the problem is.
Like a good metaphor.
Welcome to episode number
72.
We are glad you are here. We have had a ongoing request, to talk about this topic.
Which we love, by the way.
Thank you for those requests.
There's a hair on the microphone. Sorry.
Let's start over.
Sorry. No. When I talk. Say requesting again, just in case I...
We have had this topic requested a lot, and so we're looking forward to going at it. It may not be one of our most sultry podcasts. I can usually find a way to make it that way, but definitely an important topic.
I think it prevents the sultry, though, so...
Prevents the sultry?
If you don't address it.
Oh, yeah. I was like, we don't want to prevent it.
No. That's what I'm saying. If you really want to get to sultry, you got to address this.
During our marriage, it wasn't always great, and it's not always perfect. We talked about how we mess it up all the time.
In fact, you are usually saying that you F it up, but yesterday it was me.
And we finally had a turn.
I just want to, acknowledge we are very human. We do very human things. We have very human moments. And yeah, I messed up yesterday, and an apology was definitely due. And so I apologized.
You did. I appreciated that. But it always wasn't that easy for us. We would go into battle and we would battle it out. And there was some long-term scars and some very heavy things.
Resentments,
wounds,
hurts,
insecurities, you name it, we had it. And so during this process, as we start repairing and rebuilding our marriages, we get more intimate. We decide we want to be honest instead of hiding. We got to be able to forgive each other and move forward.
Repair.
Yep. As easy as that sounds, it's not as easy to do.
On. Yeah. It's like that song, we like to bury the hatchet but leave the handle sticking out just in case
I need to grab it again.
Grab it again later. And I think as humans, we're very prone to doing that.
We like to stay in our justified state, right? No matter what. Even post forgiveness, potentially. I guess it's not really forgiveness at that point, but I feel like we like to stay in our justified state. And often to me, I got to that justified state. I was really good at arguing it and standing my ground. And even if it came to a point where I'm like, okay, I probably had something to do with that. Or most likely before I was like, hey, I just want to get this over with so that we can stop fighting because I'm done fighting. I probably would have gone through some forgiveness process, but stayed justified in my own self. Yeah, I'm still on the right.
And I don't even think there's any forgiveness then.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's true forgiveness.
Yeah.
Yep.
So talk a lot about it's impossible to be married and not hurt one another. It's impossible to be married and not inflict some kind of wounds or damage. It's literally impossible. And the thing that helps couples take that damage that will inevitably be done and will continue to happen, hopefully in like smaller ways. I'm not saying like re-injuring the same thing, but like we're humans and we're growing, and so we're going to keep making mistakes. The thing that keeps relationships moving forward is the ability to recognize that it isn't your job to keep each other happy. It is your job as a couple to learn how to repair and to love. And that really stretches us as human beings. And if we really want to be loving, we've got to address the wounds. And often I see these being carried as resentments. Those resentments are often the sign that you have not either forgiven or addressed some part of a conflict or have it repaired. And when you hold on to those, it's like this barrier that prevents the two of you from actually being able to really be intimate emotionally and physically and sexually. Like it literally becomes like walls.
I literally think it's that thing that holds us back because we're not truly being intimate and honest. If we can't let go of those resentments and move forward. It is a reminder of me when I talked about how I was early on in our marriage taking a psychology class, and my psychology teacher was talking about relationships, and I was so proud to raise my hand and tell her that my wife and I were newly married and we never fought. And her answer shocked me. Then she said, then one of you is not showing up. And I got mad at her.
Because it was kind of your badge of honor.
It was my badge of honor. No, we
marriage.
do it.
I have a happy wife and a happy
Right.
life.
With all honesty, I was overbearing and Amy wasn't able to show up. And so that's why those things didn't happen. We buried our feelings because we thought it was our job to help each other be happy and not have any of those conflicts. And that the sign of a good marriage was the conflicts were missing and not there. But we've come to learn that's the opposite sign, that when there is lack of conflict, when there's a lack of this open honesty, then the marriage is not working. And the conflict does not identify a bad marriage. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want you to go like fighting all the time. If you're always fighting and never moving forward, that's a problem too. But there's this natural pace of having two human beings that are definitely different. And usually you're attracted to your opposite. So you're going to find someone that's truly different than you. Living closely and inhabiting the same space is just going to set up things for conflict. And
by conflict, we mean differences, not aggressive attacking.
Right. We don't condone like fighting, abuse, or anything like that.
No,
for sure.
And some people hear conflict, and that's what they make it mean. So that's why I just want to clarify.
It is that. I think Jennifer put it really well on our podcast when she talked about it. It's that expectation not being met. It's that desire you have and the disappointment that says, I'm not going to get that the same way that we want it, right? I'm not going to get it the way that I think I should get it, or I'm not going to achieve this, or I'm not going to be right, or I'm not going to be victorious in this thing. And it's that ego that you have that's trying to protect you and saying, if you are wrong, you're going to die and be kicked out of the tribe. And it really gets down to that, but it's telling you that you have to be right, or that's going to be something wrong, that you need to be victorious here. And I was a all out fighter, right? I loved it. My ego won every time. And that made me feel like a grown man. And really, it was not a very good husband.
Yeah. I want to talk about the ego, but before I do, I also want to talk about John and Julie Gottman, who are one of the primary researchers in long-term married couples, and in their love lab where they brought couples in, studied them extensively to see and followed them for long periods of time to see who had thriving marriages or who stayed close or who, separated or divorced or what have you. And what they found in their love lab was it wasn't the amount of conflict that couples had that determined whether they would have a thriving marriage. It was how they repaired from that conflict, how they were able to forgive and to move on. And so the presence of conflict does not indicate that your marriage isn't a good one or that something is wrong or something is broken. It's, can you actually use that conflict, move through it to repair? And actually in that repair process, you grow more connected. But what I see happen is couples hit the conflict, create distance, resentments, wounds, hurts, don't learn how to repair and forgive and move farther away from one another.
Absolutely. And the thing that we want to focus on today is that we always talk about this. You can clearly see the bad things or the problems that your spouse has with this. Oh, my spouse does this and she does that and she does this. But all those are all the things you have zero control over. And how frustrating is it to go after those things that you cannot control? It just adds to the resentment because you're like, I'm in this uncontrollable thing. I don't have any ability to be able to fix this problem or change the situation. And the answer to that is you do. The problem is we oftentimes do not want to turn inward and think and focus on ourselves because it's hard. It's hard work. It's eye-opening. It's tough. You get answers you don't want, things you don't like.
It presses on insecurities.
It totally does.
Mhm.
And remember, I was in it to get that validation that I was okay. And so turning inwards, not hell no. Like, why would I do that? I'm begging Amy to tell me that I'm great. I'm not going to look in and see if there's anything wrong with me to start with.
So yesterday we were on our way to see a musical and talking about one of the relationships I have. And I'm not talking about marriage or anything. I'm just talking about a family relationship. And you were asking me some hard questions. And I could feel myself wanting to defend.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is happening, but I'm getting better. Yes, this is happening, but I've been working on like that defense. It's not like that. Yeah, but can't you see how much progress I've made? Like looking for that. I guess it's that hit of validation or like, yeah, that might be
I
a
could be
problem.
worse.
It could be worse, or but can you see how I've been working on it and how far I've come?
Give me
And
credit for that.
right, looking for that I don't know that it's approval, but I guess maybe
It's
credit.
It's validation.
It's validation. Yeah. And I could feel that. And I think it's really good to remember
the
that.
reason why I'm laughing, the funnest part for me was I don't want to watch Amy be in pain and struggle here, but having seen her go into this place, there was a time in my coaching career when I was getting frustrated because I didn't feel like I was making a big impact. And Amy says, I have an answer for you if you want to hear it. And so that
I
was
said,
like,
I have some
I have some
feedback.
feedback if you want it. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And I certainly did. And so she did give me some feedback about how it's so more impactful if you allow the person to answer their own questions. And she says, oftentimes I see you coaching and sometimes you jump in too quickly to answer the question for them because you have the information, and that's great. Now, the crazy thing about this is I knew this. I've been certified as an adult instructor through work, and I had a whole organization that I certified through them. And that's the one thing we talk about, the difference between lecturing and learning. And learning is you guide them to answer their own questions because that's way more impactful. So I'm like, oh, duh. But the funnest thing yesterday as we're going through and we're driving out there, and Amy keeps coming back with this, I just keep on coming back with questions. And she looks at me like so frustrated. I'm like, you taught me that. And she's like, shit.
It's true.
But it was the reflectiveness of we want to defend ourselves, and that's natural, and there's nothing wrong with that. So if you have someone else that can see without, there was no malice there. I wasn't angry or trying to.
But I could feel that
malice.
struggle within me, like wanting to defend. And I was like, here we are. Like, no, soften into this, see what's right, own what's real. Yes, you may have made some progress, and I feel like I have, but that doesn't excuse that there could be more, right? It doesn't mean that I just get to defend. It's no, look at this honestly. And that is such like an uncomfortable place to be. And yet it's where the growth happens.
Absolutely.
Where you can hold on to the fact that you're a worthy human being. You are making efforts or attempts or like working on something, and there's still room to grow. And I think we're often really hesitant to move into that space because it really challenges just our sense of worth
It's
and
not
value.
comfortable.
It's not comfortable. It's just I felt myself squirming, and I was like, just stay here. Just stay here. Look at yourself. Stay open. And I feel like that's what has to happen.
And I'm over there doing, you can do one more rep. Come on, push it up on the bar. You got this. And your body's, I'm giving out. I'm like, no, you got this.
You got this.
It's the same thing with physical exercise, right? It's that last rep, that push that goes beyond failure that says, I can rep one more. And it's the uncomfortableness that causes those muscles to grow. And it's the same way with our emotional intellect and our capacity to have this intimate relationship.
So in those moments, I'm trying to encourage you as an individual and a couple to know that is a really good place to be in order to be able to repair. Because if you really want to be able to forgive, to be able to move through conflict, you have to be able to sit in that uncomfortable confrontation with yourself. And in order to be able to sit in that uncomfortable confrontation with yourself, there needs to be some level of I'm worthy and I'm flawed. I am growing and there's room to grow, right? Holding both of those, I have value and I matter and I can address this, or there's something that I haven't seen yet or I don't understand yet. It's that really like that ability to sit in that growing space. That's what allows conflict to be repaired and to be able to move forward. And it's not, let me tell you all the things that are wrong with you.
Or it's not just dismissing bad behavior either.
It's not dismissing bad behavior. I could have very easily dismissed and defended yesterday and, oh, I've done so much better, which there is truth. I am doing way better in this relationship. And yet there are still things to address.
I think that's also on the other side, right? When I talk about not condoning bad behavior, there is definitely a need if you're a whole person. And by the way, I think that's the perfect example, a definition of perfection we talk about and wholeness that is necessary for differentiation, right? Is understanding that there's both sides of you. There's the thing that lights up the world and everyone loves about you, and there are things that people would rather have you be around them for, right? And we have both of them, and we're trying to hide the one. And when we hide the one, we hide the all, right? It's like you can't do both. When you turn one off, you turn them all off. And so I think it's on the other side too, is that part of being that way is setting really clear boundaries of what you believe is right and wrong. And not doing it out of way of justifying yourself or causing pain to the other one or having a victory, but just clearly saying this part is not okay. If your spouse is having an affair, you don't just go, I'm going to, outright forgive you because that's the way to repair. Now there's steps to repair and go through and do that. But there's also boundaries of, yeah, that's not okay. Like, I can't have you sleeping around. That's not what I believe a true marriage is. So those boundaries are different for everybody, but I just wanted to bring that up because I often think when we talk about forgiveness, we think we have to just allow people to have bad behavior and condone it. And that's just the opposite. True love and forgiveness is saying, no, I don't believe this is okay for me, for my own integrity, not because it's on a checklist, not because someone else said it, not because a culture told me or church told me or church leaders told me or my parents told me, but through my own integrity, I truly believe this is not part of that integrity. And so it's a boundary I'm setting.
Yeah. I'm thinking of forgiveness now, and I can hear the clients that requested this saying, yeah, but how do you forgive?
They want the 10 steps. Always the 10 steps.
I always want the 10 steps too. So I totally understand that. And I think when you can see that you are flawed and also worthy, when you can see that you are growing and have room to grow, it allows you to see that in others. Again, this doesn't condone poor or bad behavior, but it allows room for you to forgive, to say, you know what, that wasn't their best. And they didn't know what they didn't know, or they made a poor choice. Like, it doesn't mean you have to condone their behavior as right, but there is room to forgive what has already happened and to be able to say, let's look forward now and move on.
I think for us, it got much easier to do this when we became very honest with each other. And there are times now when you point out very blatantly things that I don't think are great about me and you don't love either. Or you say, hey, that doesn't seem like what you like to be. The emotions you're projecting don't seem like what you want to be. Is there something going on in there? And that's literally calling me out. Before, we would have had an all-out battle and fight because as soon as you said that, I'd have 10 reasons why you were wrong and all the awful things that you did. And it was, let's stack these up to see who gets to the top because I bet I can find more than you can.
Right. That's the fight to be right. And when you need to fight to be right, that is your ego unable to say, I am human and flawed.
So I think step number one, if we want to put it in 10 steps, is the ability to stop trying to protect each other. Be honest. Be honest, not because you want to get something out of it, not because you want to change something. Be honest because, again, it's part of your integrity. Knowing that honesty is more important than anything else in intimacy. If you're truly going to have an intimate relationship, you have to have an honest relationship. You have to allow them to know every part about you. and the things that you're going on in your mind. And that isn't, sometimes we get this focus like, then I should go spew all the things I want my wife to do, all the positions I want my wife to do for me. That's what
That's not
my clients usually go to. I told her I wanted her to give me oral every day, and she made her mad. Why? You told me, to be honest.
That's an expectation.
That's an expectation. And so
the honesty would be the layer deeper. Why?
what's the meaning behind it?
What are you afraid of if this doesn't happen? What does it bring up in you? Yeah. What are your insecurities?
True. Oh, that's a great point. It's digging the layer deeper.
Yes. Find it. It's very easy to point out in a spouse what they need to do so you can be okay. And if you're being honest, you're looking at the layer deeper. Why do you think you need them to be that way to be okay? That's honesty.
I guess the same way, why do you think you need you to be a certain way to be okay?
Yeah.
Or why do you think you need the world to be a certain way to be okay?
What's it bumping up against in you that you're needing to face?
I love to listen to a podcast that Jennifer did on Unjustify, on her, she does like a monthly or weekly porn podcast, and they have nuggets on there. And this one was really interesting to me because she wasn't condoning porn, by the way, so don't get up in arms, and neither are we. But she says the hurt that happens between a spouse and them around the porn question is often focused on the porn itself. But the more important thing is, what does it mean about your spouse that you didn't want to know? And can you know that about them and still choose to love them? What is causing them to go to that? What is the meaning behind that? And oftentimes the first thing that the wives do, if it's going that way, and it goes both ways, by the way. I was just on a post on one of the Facebook posts around porn, and a wife that was just bearing her soul around this, and how it was something that she had started at a young age, and she would watch, and her husband had watched, and they tried to overcome it, but she saw her husband doing it, and it was just devastating to her. And the interesting that I saw, and I'm going down a little rat hole here, but I'm going to go there anyway. The interesting pattern I saw in the comments was there was a lot of wives that said, yeah, I viewed it, or I do view it, or this is my thought about it, around it, more than we expect. So it could be both ways. So when I say this, I know that I'm generalizing, but usually when that comes up, it's the wife that's trying to say, what's wrong with me? There's something broken in me. Why doesn't my husband desire me? And it goes back to answering the deeper question than that. What is it about your spouse that you don't want to know that drives them to do this? And what is it about themselves that they're trying to hide from when they go do this? Because it's not the porn itself that's the problem. It could be, if it's against your integrity, absolutely it could be a problem itself. But really the problem is it's done in the darkness and hidden, and it lacks intimacy because of that.
Yes. So first step is to go that layer deeper into honesty. Again, honesty isn't spewing all the things that you think your spouse needs to be or do. It's a deeper look into you. Why is this difficult? What does it bring up in you? What does it bring up when maybe it is about a spouse's behavior, maybe it's about porn viewing. What is it that you don't want to see in them, or you don't want to see in yourself? That's the honesty we're talking about. And having been through that porn struggle, that was really what took us so long to unravel, is what did we not want to really see that the porn was bringing up? And a lot had to do with uncertainty and anxiety around our sexuality, and unknowing, not certain whether it was actually good or whether it was evil like we'd been taught, and whether there were parts of us that were shameful. Could we actually be vulnerable and exposed? That's the honesty we're talking about. If I were to make a step 2, it would be to remember that when you are in judgment, or when you are holding a grudge, or when you are in that power struggle, your heels dug in and are just feeling resentment, it's not good for you. A lot of times we have this idea that we want to make our spouse feel loved. And the spouse, obviously, our energy and behaviors and choices do have some impact on our spouse, but they're the ones that ultimately decide whether that feels loving. But for you, love feels good for you. The person feeling it and experiencing it. It is a very desirable state and place to be in. And so I feel like when we are unforgiving, when we stay in judgment, when we hold on to these resentments, it makes life harder for you, for us as an individual. It makes it harder to be forgiving to yourself, to be present, to feel joy, to move closer to anyone. Like it starts to wall off parts of you. And so a lot of times they're like, why should I forgive my spouse? Or why should I forgive this person? Like maybe they feel like they need to prove themselves or they're not deserving of it or some other thing. And again, I'm not saying let go of your values or what you believe may be moral or immoral, but forgiveness is good for you. When I was carrying all of the anger and resentments and judgments towards you, Greggy, that was damaging me.
Yeah.
It really was. And it kept me from being present in life and enjoying life. And so often we won't be forgiving because we think it will somehow free up the other person.
Let them have a free pass.
Yeah, let them have a free pass.
And really it's damning us from moving forward.
And if you're in a power struggle, you're like, I'm not giving them an inch. Or if you're really holding on to grudges and resentments, I'm not forgiving them. Like
they'll win.
They'll win. Yes. And I'm saying, no, you lose.
I remember that narrative so much. If I just give up and not want her to initiate sex, then she'll win. She'll win. I'm like, I look back and I'm like, that's the stupidest statement in the whole entire world. How dumb can I be? I think one of the things that can help step number 2, and we'll go back to yesterday, the little example that you gave about the family relationship, is that oftentimes when you dig in and start thinking about it, there's a narrative running in your head around the situation. Mm-hmm. And the cool things and the sucky things about narratives, the sucky thing is that we think they're true and we hold on to them and we use them as 100% truth. The cool thing about them is we can decide whether they're true or not, right? And we get to choose. And we oftentimes go through the pattern of asking, is that narrative helpful? Does it help the situation? Is it true? Is there another way that we can state the narrative that's more beneficial to you?
Again, we're not talking about gaslighting. We're staying in truth, but often when you have a narrative, you have edited out some important details, or you're definitely looking from a lens and perspective that usually doesn't have a lot of grace in it.
Yep.
And so there's definitely room. Go ahead. And the third question?
So what was the third one?
Kind.
Is it kind? That's right. Is it kind?
Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind?
Yep.
Those are my 3 litmus test questions for any narrative. Again, because we tend to believe the things that we say inside of us and don't fact check them, so to speak. Just we're like, oh, my brain made this up, therefore it must be true.
Oh, I know it's true. Yeah. As you're going through this repair process, if you can turn inward and see what those narratives are and then start asking those questions, and it becomes really powerful. It was the questions that I was asking Amy on the car ride right back. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, that's your narrative, right? You've been telling yourself this for a very long time. Mm-hmm. Is it kind? Is it true? Is it helpful? Mm-hmm. How does it help you and this other person? Mm-hmm. Can you see that narrative is not only damaging for you, but could be damaging for them? Mm-hmm. And holding on to it causes what? What would be the problem of letting it go?
Or updating and revising
or revising it.
To revisions in software.
We can do it everywhere else in our life.
We want the latest and greatest, technology, but yet we hold on to archaic thoughts and narratives. And so if you want to develop, it's developing that. And as you do, I feel like that does help you let go of resentments and judgments and blame. You get more honest.
I mean, let's go back to the food example that Dr. Snyder gave us and we love to use. I think it's similar to that, right?
What example?
So he talks about how our emotions and our sexuality can be considered like a buffet or food or dinner, right? Gotcha. And that there's very different things about dinner. But also the more important thing is some things we don't like to eat. We just don't like them. And so how many times have you tried to fish, Amy Lou?
A lot.
And how many times have it almost made you throw up?
every time.
So I didn't believe her. I thought she was just a wuss until I first saw her eat a piece of fish and almost puke right there on the table. I'm like, okay, this is a real thing. So she has tried everything. She's been in Portugal right next to the sea. She's tried it. We lived in San Diego. I got a gift card from
Anthony's
work about right there on the bay. The fish probably jumped from the bay onto the grill. That's how fresh it was. And she ordered chicken. And the waiter just reamed her.
He did. He's like, you're at Anthony's Fish Grotto on the pier and you're ordering chicken. And I was like, I'm here for my husband.
So even though there's been some harassment in that area, she's very, very okay with saying, I do not like fish. It's not part of me. I don't like that. It's not, I've tried it. It's not good. And we're able to do that so easily. Nope, I don't feel like pasta tonight. And there's no harm, no foul in saying that, right? But in this process of relationships and emotions, we feel like we can't go somewhere and back up and say, we didn't like that, or that wasn't a step that I should have taken. That was against my integrity. For some reason, the stakes seem way higher for us. And maybe they are, but the process is exactly the same. We're human beings, and until we go and we experience that moment, until we step out there and do that, and F it up sometimes, because some of the biggest, most growing parts of life is when you really do F it up.
Yes.
And that's when you're like, oh, well, that didn't work. Not going to do that again. But we're so worried about admitting that we're wrong and that we got it wrong because it means something about us, or it will put us in a bad light with our spouse, or it will give them an advantage. I had all these things I'm coming up in my head are all mine, by the way. These are all the things I used. I was in such a power position of, I have to be the winner. I have to be here, that I used them all.
Right. And that superiority or grandiosity, as Terry Real calls it, or the need to be one up, is usually the biggest flag of your own insecurity.
What am I trying to hide? Mm-hmm. And when I finally was like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to hide something. I am trying to hide my own insecurities and I need validation, is when I finally started changing. And our relationship started changing, and we were more honest with each other. We worked through these resentments that we'd had for decades. Mm-hmm. Decades.
Yeah, we went through the porn thing. I think that was a 10, 15-year long conflict.
That's a big one, but there were like so many others. You don't do the dishes, you don't love me.
Yeah.
You watch football, you don't love me. You don't initiate sex, you don't love me. You don't desire me because you don't want to be creative in the bed. Like if we could spend a whole nother 5 hours listing these things out, we had them all of them. And these things still come up, by the way, but we're able to be honest with each other and challenge each other from where they're coming up so that we can get to that next level. I love how you put it, Emilio. I think it's the perfect thing. If you are coming across and being angry and wanting to take a stance somewhere, go to the next level. Go one deeper. And ask the questions to yourself, what does this truly mean? What is behind this? Because this resentment and this anger and this willingness to not forgive is usually just the smoke behind the fire.
So you got to find the fire. You got to find the root. You got to be willing to confront yourself, to dig, to look, to go inside. That's where the forgiveness and the unraveling of the narratives and the growth starts to happen. And it is uncomfortable.
Very. But I learned so many things about myself that I probably already knew, but didn't want to admit. It was terrifying.
It is terrifying. But let's take it a little smaller. Like, porn is obviously like a bigger one, right? That took many kind of layers at unraveling because it touched on so many parts of ourselves and our insecurities and so forth. But let's just take like a smaller conversation. And let's say I've said something and you don't understand it, or it really pulled on.
Do you have a real example so we can?
I'm trying to think of one, but I can think of a lot of client ones, but I'm trying not to. Anyways, let's just say I said something and it pulled on an old narrative.
Yeah.
And you're like,
well, let's put it in reality, right?
Okay.
We've talked about how before, when we were insecure with our own relationships, that oftentimes when we engage with someone of the opposite sex, it was very nerving to us, right? Unnerving to us. We talked about the story of my friend from Victory that I could banter about, and we went on a double date, and Amy's like, you're having an emotional affair with her.
I did not say emotional fair.
You said that. You didn't say that, but that's what you were thinking down
I
the
said,
side.
wow, you're flirting.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Anyway, then we talked about what that is. So let's put it in that manner, that when we see some of these things that happen, sometimes it pulls on an old nerve or it makes us upset. So we had this happen recently where there was an engagement between someone with opposite sex, and I took offense to it, and it made me upset. I didn't come out right away. I was trying to process through it, because what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to be the controlling, insecure spouse over there. You can't talk to men because you're cheating kind of thing. I didn't want to be in that space. I didn't want to be judgmental. So I was trying to settle myself. And I think Amy knew that. And she felt a little uncomfortable about the situation. So finally I brought it up in the emotional check-in last night. And I think to start, we started with our same old habits that we always have, right? I threw the boxing gloves on and I was in the corner ready for the bell to ring.
Yeah.
And you did the same. You had justifications of why it was okay what we were doing. You had reasons why it didn't mean what I thought it meant. And we were about to go to battle.
The age-old, my intentions were good.
That's the one you love to use.
I think everyone does. And
but wait, I was trying to do the right thing.
And I feel, and I coach couples on this, but it is such a snag to be my intentions were good, because most of the time, the majority of the time, our intentions are always good. So it's not.
It doesn't matter, actually.
It's not about intentions. It's about there was some hurt or harm caused. Can we address that?
Yeah. Yep.
And so I was like, oh, shoot, I did the intention thing.
Yeah. But we put the gloves on. We were ready to go. And I think
that's funny, because I didn't feel like.
Oh, yeah. Because you started coming at me with, this is justification of why I did this. And my first reaction was, I'm going to show you why it's not. Right.
Oh, okay.
And so I think that's what you picked up on, that as an emotional. And your next step was, oh, we're too emotional right now. We can't talk about it. And I was like, bullshit. We're not giving this one up. And at that moment, I realized what you're doing. And I wasn't bullshit like, I'm ready to throw punches. I'm like, okay, I see this. Let's put the gloves down. And that was the moment that made me take the gloves off. And then I saw you soften a little bit. And I said, let's talk through this. Yes, it's very emotional. There's emotions behind it, but that doesn't mean we can't process together.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't. Sometimes we've talked about the all-out fight we had on the ride home one time, that we just got into it. And it was, give me a moment. I have to go figure out what's going on inside, because this emotion is so big and overwhelming. I can't figure it out. And so there are those moments where, okay, give me 5 minutes. We always got to come back.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen progress where, I don't even think we had to do that last night. We just sat in our emotions. We both thought through what they were. I stopped doing what I wanted to do and show you and why you were so wrong. I had all the examples written. I've been working on it for 3 days. I had an essay written of why you were wrong. And I put that down. And ultimately it came to what?
I said I was sorry.
Yeah. You're like, you're right. I'm sorry.
I realized that hurt and harm was done, and that's what matters most. And I asked you, tell me more about what you saw and what you experienced so I can learn and
I was bluntly honest with what it was.
Yeah. And I appreciated that. And I reminded you that I choose you and I love you. And I then was holding you. And so I think you could feel that.
And that's the other thing, because Amy's modus operandi in the past was put on the running shoes and be out of there.
Yeah.
She was the best withdrawer in the world. She could be gone like that.
Yep.
Because I was overbearing and I took up the void and didn't give her space to show up. And so she ran and I pursued, and then it became messy. And so I think that's important too, knowing what your modes of fighting are, right? Where do you go? What do you do?
Do you withdraw? Do you get aggressive? Do you get critical? Do you get judgmental? Do you get blamey? Do you turn into the victim and make them the villain?
Do you get loud? Do you yell?
Do you get loud? Do you
violent?
Get cold?
Do you get
do you freeze out?
Right.
You got to know your stance, that when you do, that's the time for you to look at you.
Right. Those are the red flags. And we had all kinds of them coming up last night. I felt
Yeah.
them. And that's where I think you felt the emotions. But it really was, Amy was withdrawer. So having her still there. And I'll tell you, our morning snuggle this morning was one of the best we've ever had. There was no disconnect whatsoever, right? It felt like we were truly connected. And that's just not what happened before. This thing would have dragged out and we would have been in our corners ready to box.
So even in, let's say, a smaller conversation, when you say something or something just comes out wrong, I feel as couples, we forget that we can say,
oops,
ooh, can I try that again?
Yeah, the rewind buttons become really important to us.
Rewind. Can I take that again? That did not exit the way that I wanted it to, or with the meaning that I wanted it to, or with the delivery or tone that I wanted it to. And I would really like to try that again. Or from the other side, the other spouse going,
that doesn't sound quite right.
is this what you meant? Or like, this is what I'm hearing and feeling. Is that what you intended? Is that what you're trying to share? Is this the meaning at your end? To give some grace there on both sides, either one can really help to set the stage where conflict doesn't spiral so fast, where you can slow it down and you can practice. When you can actually practice in the moment and let me try that again. Or did you really mean that? That seems maybe like I misunderstood.
Or this triggered these things in me, and I'm not sure why. Did you mean to trigger these things?
Yeah, this is what's happening for me. Is that
this is my reality?
So even in those moments, you can practice, and that practice does help resolve the conflict. You can be like, no, let's keep going. Let's figure out what we're actually sharing here and what is actually the meaning of what we're trying to express. And just even grace in that. I often have to think really deeply before I can share, and you think really quickly.
Yep.
And so when you say something,
maybe not good, it just comes out.
Like you're very decisive and quick to this is what it meant. And I have to do this like search. And sometimes you're like, I need an answer now. And I'm like, I'm trying to get there. Hold on, I'm processing. I can feel like that little, when you get on a website and there's like the circle.
loading.
I'm like, I'm checking them. And sometimes in that loading, I haven't quite fully loaded maybe. And I'll say something like, no, I'm not actually there yet. Let me keep trying. And just some freedom to do that, I think is really helpful. I think when you ultimately recognize that there will be wounds, there will be hurt, there will be misunderstandings, it's impossible, literally impossible.
It's not healthy.
It's not healthy. When you understand that there will be conflict, the conflict doesn't mean that you're a bad person or that they're a bad person or that you're the victim or that they're the villain or that your marriage is broken. I feel like those meaning frames really send people into some really low places. So even knowing, okay, conflict is normal.
It just means you're married.
It just means you're married. How can we move this towards repair? How can we move this towards connection? Even just moving in that direction, like what is there for me to understand or learn in this? What is there for me to see or expand into or understand differently? You always have a different lens or perspective than I do.
Yep.
And I don't naturally see that way. I see through my own lens and perspective.
And we used to think that was a problem.
Right. And when you know and expect that your spouse is going to see differently, you don't make it mean that anything's gone wrong.
Well, it's beautiful because you take that and now I appreciate it instead of thinking it's a problem, right? I'm like, oh, you have a different perspective. What is it? And that doesn't mean I agree with everything, just the opposite. In fact, we're very much more honest with each other about the things we disagree with. We're further on different pages than we ever were, but we're honest with each other and we see that as a blessing, not a curse, to know that there's someone with a different perspective that loves and cares about you and will tell you honestly what they think.
So intimacy asks us to expand. Eros asks us to expand. What we don't realize is that conflict is asking us to expand in some way.
Yep.
And if you want to really lean into forgiveness, it is to lean into the growth of that expansion. This is good for you to see and understand and let go and move on, develop whatever word, whatever verb resonates within you. That allows you as a human being to be a better human being.
Yeah. I think there's one last thing I want to say that I think is really critical. I had experience most recently around this. We need to take some time to stop and think and be grateful for what we do have.
Mm-hmm.
We're so willing to see the things we don't have. We're so willing to see the places where we disagree with our spouse. We're so willing to see the hurts that they overshadow the great good things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you a perfect example that happened to me recently that made me just pause. So that morning and during our snuggle, we decided we would snuggle naked and there would be no sexual connection to it. And that would never happen in the past. It can happen now because of where we are maturely. And so I was holding Amy and just enjoying her and kissing her. And in that moment, it flashed back in my mind the first time I kissed Amy. And the feeling it used to have to kiss her. And I said, hey, you idiot. I talked to myself like that because I was being an idiot inside. Why are you so ungrateful? You get to kiss Amy every day. And that used to be the thing that fired you up more than anything else. And now it's become something that just habit and happenstance. And I don't appreciate it like I did. And in that moment, I went back to the gratitude of being next to the person I loved and just feeling her lips on mine. And it meant everything to me in the world. And it changed my whole perspective. And so gratitude can truly change your perspective. We're not asking to gaslight yourself. We're not asking to put away those things that are challenging or struggles. But can we start with the good stuff? Can we remember the good things? The reason why we do love our spouse? The things that are going well? We talk about this all the time in our
Things you
sexual.
appreciate in them.
Appreciate it, right?
The fact that they're by your side, that you
Right.
get to do this together. You're on the same team.
Yes.
You bring different strengths, absolutely
Yes.
different perspectives, but you're on the same team.
So I think it's last but not least, as we go through these conflicts and we find these places where we want resentment and we want to hold on to them, a large dose of gratitude can melt things away faster than anything else and change your situation. It's insane. Like, I watch a comedian that talks about how ungrateful we are, and he does it in a funny way, but he talks about how ungrateful we are. Like, he's like, do you know before 1920, you didn't even take a shower because you're sitting there and you're complaining about the water pressure is not enough and you didn't ever have a warm shower? Like, you live in the greatest country and you have all these things and you complain because of, the little things in your life that aren't going right. So first world problems that we have that we complain about. And so a dose of reality and gratitude and living in that moment of, I have it well because this is the person that's next to me, and it's not perfect and we're not perfect in the sense of the word that we've turned it into, which means it's not exactly what
flawless.
We are perfect in the way it should be. That means I know that I have really, really, really good stuff about me and really, really shitty stuff about me. And Amy has the same. And guess what? I love her because of it. And she loves and chooses me. And she knows all those stupid things that I do. And she still says, I want to be with you. And that is the greatest thing ever. And so it's not easy. These things are hard. There's a lot of places that we can mess up and stub our toes. And oftentimes, just as it was when I was sitting in the truck driving last night, I was able to help Amy ask some questions to herself, start thinking about her narrative in a different light. It's so helpful to have someone do that. And we would love to be the ones to help you do that. We're nothing special about us, but we've had some practice. We've gotten better over time as we watch this happen over and over again in couples and be able to talk about their narratives and see the change that happens. It's absolutely fantastic. In fact, we were coaching a couple just the other day, and the wife had to ask again, the husband, so you mean this is now the thought process you have when you talk about intimacy with us? And he goes, yes. And I had been coaching that husband, so I knew it was true. And the change for her just to hear that he had changed his thought process around intimacy.
He changed his meaning.
Huge. The meaning was not there anymore. And to watch the two just melt because the narrative changed is just fantastic. So what I'm saying is we'd love to help you. Please go up on langfordlifecoaching.com. There's a free consult button. Click that. We'd love to have a consult with you. We're so grateful that you show up and listen to. It's just blows my mind. We were talking to a good friend that had done a podcast about podcasts, and it still blows my mind, and we love doing this, so we appreciate it.
I just want to add thank you to all the couples who showed up to our couples community night. I really, really enjoy all of my couples. I don't know if it's legal for a coach to say that, but I respect every single person that's metaphorically sits in front of me on Zoom.
Awesome questions and insights and input.
And the eagerness and the willingness to learn.
And until next time,
keep undressing your intimacy.
Bye-bye.